Entrepreneurs aren't born, they are made through failures, breakthroughs, and relentless hustle. Welcome to the Empowered Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host Rohit Soni, airing across 185 countries, 26 plus TV networks, 100 plus podcast stations. This is where visionaries share their unfiltered journeys, strategies, and game-changing insights. Your success story starts here. This is more than just a show, it's a movement. Watch, learn, and elevate. So, hello everyone, welcome back to the Empowered Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host Rohit Soni, and today I'm with my amazing guest Rodger Koopman. Before Rodger even speaks a single word, I really want to make sure you could get a little bit background about him, which I'm about to share with you. Rodger is a seasoned leader with decades of experience building and scaling high-performing teams in tech industry. From early-stage startups to enterprise organizations, he has transformed demoralized divisions into thriving, innovative units. Rodger believes real leadership, not just management, drives product success, customer retention, and company growth. So hi Rodger, welcome on the stage. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Rodger, before we dive into the episode and the questions that I'm going to ask, tell us a little bit more about your background, how you started in the industry, and where you are today with what you have done.
Sure. I first spent some time in the U.S. Air Force and left the Air Force and joined a startup in Silicon Valley during the heyday of the internet in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was a gold rush, a modern day gold rush, but I learned a lot about what it takes to build products, market those, sell those, and also how to build high performing engineering teams that are able to very quickly create products of high quality and pivot whenever market changes dictate so. Then we were acquired, and as part of the acquisition, I was asked to move to the East Coast to reorganize a large R&D division for the company that acquired us. And I did that successfully. I was able to, again, build a high-performing engineering team and get a product out the door that was 3 years behind schedule. Then I joined another startup, and it's the same thing, building a new product, building an engineering team that can build your product with high quality and dependability. So the thing that I've discovered is that I'm good at organizing people in a way that enables them to build products that perform well in the market. And I pivoted to more of a coaching position in 2017 because I really enjoy that part of a transformation, to be working with the C-suite, senior leaders to make things happen.
Absolutely. And Rodger, you have said companies should have leaders, not managers. Mm-hmm. According to you, why is this so critical for entrepreneurs right now?
Well, especially today with a lot of uncertainty introduced now by AI and the changes it's going to drive into the job market, you actually need more leadership, not less. And there is, in the military, we used to say you lead people, you manage things. Managers are people that are good at applying process, but they're not necessarily good at inspiring people to do things those people weren't even, didn't even think they were capable of doing. So real leadership, the ability to get people to do difficult things, and to do so, and to give of themselves everything, to completely commit, is something that is difficult to do. And managers don't inspire. Managers, as a matter of fact, typically turn people off. They try to exert control. In today's knowledge work, that's completely anathema to actually retaining your talent. So what you see is poorly led organizations, their talent walks out the door, and you wind up with a very mediocre team. So the results are, usually almost immediately visible in revenue going down and so on and so forth.
And take us back to how did you first discover the difference between managing and truly leading? Was there a difference? Was it just you doing the work and understanding, okay, this is the big difference? Was there any other client you worked with and you saw that difference? So, yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, actually, it started in the military where the military invests a lot of time in developing its young officers into becoming leaders. And from an early age on, professionally, as I was a lieutenant and then later a captain, I was told by some very senior officers, generals and colonels, that I had great leadership skills, that I was able to work with people in a way that compelled them to work harder, but not in a coercive way, but in a motivational way. I've always been a very people-oriented person. My Air Force nickname when I flew was Smiley, because I'm a pretty happy guy. And so I knew that I had that ability. So then when I joined that first startup, I was hired for two reasons. Number one, my background in real-time weapon systems and data communications, because we were working on real-time device drivers and so on, but also to set up an engineering team. And I did that very successfully. I hired great talent, which back in 1998, 99 was very difficult to do when everybody was competing for the same very small resource pool in Silicon Valley. And I was able to get that team together, and we had fun. And the environment I created, apparently, and I didn't really feel I did anything special, but I take care of people. I take care of people that take care of the business. And if people are not performing, then I will reach out. I will try to work with them. But at some point, I walk them out the door. So the other thing I've never shied away from is to make the important decisions, sometimes difficult decisions, to let people go, because that's what it takes to have a healthy team. There have been several instances throughout my career where I had great engineering teams, and there were, one or two people that were kind of ruining the fun, so to speak, the work environment, the vibe. And those people I had to let go. And I told them as I let them go that, they needed to find another opportunity because they obviously did not want to or could not fit into the team that we were building and that we had built. So that's the other thing. Leaders ensure that their teams are healthy. And that means that if there are people in those teams that are ruining the dynamic, then you take care of that. Leaders, real leaders, make the difficult decisions, the tough choices, the unpopular choices. So being a good leader is not about being the most popular guy. Steve Jobs, for example, was a great leader. He was able to get people to do amazingly difficult things with the results that we all are familiar with. But from what I hear and from what I've read about him, he was a taskmaster. He was kind of an asshole to work for. So it wasn't like he was, the most well-liked guy in the room. That's not at all what leadership is about.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with the fact, because either you can get success or you can be nice. You don't have to do both always, because when you're on that path of making sure that results are coming consistently from an organization, you got to make the tough calls, and that's how it works, right? And I'm going to make a quite tough call that we need to go on a short break right now. But when we come back, Rodger will share with us a little bit more about turning around a division, a little bit more about personal challenges that he has faced, plus how to spot leadership talent in unexpected places when we come back. So I'll see you right after the short break.
As a coach or a consultant, your focus should be on transforming lives, not struggling to get clients. That's where my company Amplify Media comes in to help you not just scale your business, but to consistently give you the revenue that your business deserves. We actually build a done-for-you lead generation acquisition system that brings in clients consistently, so that you don't have to worry about where the next client is coming in. You focus on the most important thing that is scaling your business and impacting your own coaching clients. From high impact marketing and scroll stopping content to expert funnel creation, we take your business from point A to point B with precision. Coaches and consultants worldwide trust the company. We have over 277 plus clients, case studies all around the world, help tons and tons of businesses scale. So your next level is waiting. Let's make your brand unforgettable and visit the website today. I would love to offer you a free strategy session to share with you how we can help scale your business. Thank you.
So hello everyone, welcome back to the Empower Entrepreneur TV show. Here's with you my guest Rodger Koopman. So yeah, Rodger, before the break we were talking about managing or leadership and how it works in different dynamics in different organizations. So now let's dive into your story at Silicon in Energy, right, Etron. Can you walk us through the challenge and what you were up against during that time? And I know that's a challenge, but I would love for you to share with the world so that if they're going through it, they might learn a thing or two.
The challenge we had at Silicon Energy was that we were a VC-funded company, and our sales were flagging because we had some very significant quality issues. The CEO was under pressure from the board, was trying to get a product out as quickly as possible. The next deal basically paid our wages, right, for the month. And so there was a lot of pressure on just releasing, as well as overselling, overpromising, and then under-delivering. And so we got some feedback through a company that went out and surveyed our customers about how satisfied they were with our product. And the satisfaction rates were very, very low. And so that was a wake-up call. We had to basically get together and figure out how do we reestablish our product, not just as something that solves a specific thing, but does that with very high quality, high dependability. We automated workflows for utility companies. So all their meter data that was collected from utility meters would go through our software. If there were missing meter data, those would be estimated, interpolated, and so on. And so everything we did touched a company's revenue. So the fact that we had a reputation of low quality significantly impacted our ability to sell our enterprise solution. We got together and basically I herded all the engineers into a conference room, and I told them, we're not going to leave until we have figured out exactly where the biggest opportunities are for us to quickly fix the biggest performance challenges, the biggest quality challenges. We knew areas of the product where customers were very unhappy, and that's what we did. We got together, and very simple. My rules were no phones, no laptops. We're going to do everything by hand with sticky notes on whiteboards, and I will feed you twice a day. And so that's what we did. We were able, within a matter of 4 days, to very quickly converge on the biggest targets of opportunity. And we fixed those, and we re-released the product with those fixes, and the quality level went way up. And customer sat over a period of time also began improving based on that. We did a road show. I was on the road with several sales teams. We would go to the various customers and do the mea culpa. These are the mistakes we made, and it was an open kimono moment. This is what we did. This is why we made mistakes. These are the safeguards we've put in place to avoid doing that again. And we promise you going forward that we would rather delay releasing something to you, something that you have been promised, if that means that quality, is maintained at a very high level. We're not going to release crap to you. And so with that, we were able to reestablish trust. And in a matter of about 6 to 9 months, we were back on top. And that was a difficult moment and required basically a commitment, not just on the inside of the company, but also outward facing. The roadshow we did with the sales teams was also part of our ability to reestablish trust, because we created a dialogue with our customers. We didn't just leave our customers, out in the wind, trying to figure out what the hell we were doing. We communicated very clearly and as honestly as we could what was going on, why we had made these mistakes, and what we were doing to prevent those mistakes from occurring again. So it was a two-pronged effort. Internally, we swarmed and we fixed the biggest problems. And externally, outward facing, we engaged our customers to make sure that, they were constantly communicated with. And over a period of time, those two things really helped reestablish us as a dominant company in the space we were in. So that was good.
Also, Roger, during these high stake roles, personal life supports as well, right? So during those times, how did you challenge your wife being deployed, raising a young son while taking such high stake role? Like, how did mom follow it? Because us as entrepreneurs, we may go through these issues. We may go through, you have a high stake role. How can you give time back to your family at those times? How do you do it?
Yeah, so I was very lucky. Well, I was lucky and I was unlucky. My wife was in the Army at the time, and she deployed to Iraq. She was gone for a while. But I had a great neighbor, and we taught, my neighbor and I and my wife, before she left, we agreed for a certain amount of money, because of course we didn't expect her to do all this for free. She would actually pick my son up at daycare every day. And that gave me the extra couple hours to be at the office. And so I would come home a little after 6, and we would have, my son and I would have dinner together, and then I'd read stories to him. And he was only 3 at the time. And then I'd put him to bed. And so making use of people that I could trust, asking for help, is what enabled me to kind of balance both my work and my family life. You can't do it all by yourself. If you try to do it all by yourself, I think you're going to fail. So you have to reach out and you have to figure out how to, fill the gaps. And when you fill those gaps, that takes a lot of stress away. When you are dealing with people that are truly good, and there are some outstanding folks out there that you can basically work with, then things become a lot easier. But I had to also be disciplined. And that meant that I had to get up in the morning, get out of bed, make sure that, my son was taken care of, fed, taken to daycare. And then I was at work, and I was completely focused on execution. So there wasn't much time, to screw around during my workday, because most of my hours had to be filled productively. I didn't have time to stand at the water cooler and talk to folks as much as I like to talk. I had to make sure that every hour was fully utilized from a productivity perspective. So you have to be focused and you have to be disciplined. You have to be very, very careful how you use your time.
And one of the things that, Roger, I've seen myself in my own journey is you gotta make sure that there's a timeline to everything, because when there's no timeline, no one works, and then employees just don't do anything. I've seen that if there's timeline to anything, they will work. If there's accountability every other day, they will work. If there's actual check on discipline, they will work, right? And they'll succeed. And that's the key here. And you mentioned about this sticky note exercise, right? Locking your development team into a solution was found, right?
Yes.
So what shift did that create for you?
The shift that created was, I think, twofold. Number one, people took me very seriously when I got everybody into conference room, said no phones, no laptops. I'll feed you, food is not an issue, but we're going to sit here until we solve this problem. So I basically demanded that everybody stop being distracted and focus on that 10 or 20%, that would do the 60, 70% of the heavy lifting. And then I made sure that when they started working, there were no interruptions. No sales guys calling developers, hey, can you do this, that, or the other thing? Basically, the entire company, and we weren't huge, we were a small startup, everybody knew, leave the engineering team alone. So I created room for the engineers after we figured out what we were going to do. to focus and execute. And that's really, really important because today we are interrupted all the time. Our phones beep and blink and do whatever. We get email alerts. Our screens are full of alerts. We are losing our ability to focus. And when you don't focus, you can't get anything done, anything of significance. There's an interesting book called Deep Work by Cal Newport, and it talks to this. It talks to the fact that a lot of people are constantly context switching. And that's what I basically put the kibosh on. I said, no interruptions, no context switching when you're at the office or when you're working from home, because some people telecommute. You're focused on execution, and you better be working on your specific assignment and nothing else. And that focus is what enabled us to deliver a lot of fixes and functionality at a very rapid clip. So focus, discipline, eliminating interruptions is also incredibly important.
And in saying that, like when you told me that you went into a room, you told, put everything aside, let's just focus on the 20% and the rest, then do the heavy lifting. It just reminds me that when you eliminate distraction, things go better.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a quote that I read a few years ago that completely changed how I used to operate. Like, an addiction to distraction is the end of your creative genius.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when people are addicted, they won't work. When they're not, they will. So that's how it goes. And in your experience, Rodger, how did you win back the trust of both the team and customer threatening to sue you at that time?
Well, the customers, the roadshow, and basically being able to share honestly with customers, to basically say mea culpa, this is on me. I made these mistakes. As the person in charge, I'm accountable for the outcomes. And I'm here to tell you that I'm sorry. I apologize, but I can't undo the past, but I can create a better future. And these are the steps. And I would take our customers through those steps. And, these customers, of course, were senior execs who were in charge of business units. And we established a good rapport. They knew I was sincere. I was, as humble as I could be. And that enabled us, that to reestablish a dialogue, because up until that point, customers were just angry. And when people are angry, they don't listen. So we had to get them, off the proverbial ledge, and we had to get them in a place where they were willing to listen to us. That's why the roadshow was so important. And we went to every single customer, and it took a while, but we would land, hit a customer, spend a couple of hours, explain everything, take off, go to the next location. We try to hit 2 customers a day, if that was possible, if they were somewhat close. And we had quite a few customers to talk to. Then that wasn't the beginning and the end of it. Then we kept our customers informed as we were executing. So I would share basically small updates. Today maybe people tweet, but back then it was just emails to execs saying, this week, these are the things we did. We're tracking to our schedule. The schedule published to them, at a high level at least, the roadmap and the milestones. And they saw that we were making good progress. If we got behind on something because we had underestimated work, I would share that and say, we made a mistake. We thought initially this was not as much work as it turned out to be. This is why. And so everything was communicated. So the roadshow was just the beginning of an ongoing engagement with our customers. And that engagement was almost continuous 24/7. The engineers knew this was very serious. We all had stock options. So we were also highly motivated to make sure that our stock options remained valuable. But beyond that, most people are fundamentally good and want to do the right thing. And so when you enable your people to execute, you get out of their way, you give them the resources they need to succeed, and you make it very clear what it is you need them to do. You keep things simple, and as we just mentioned, you limit interruptions and you enable people to focus. Then really, really good things start to happen. And so we got stuff out the door in record time, and the quality levels were at super, super high. So we weren't just rushing; we were working very, very fast, but in a way that was smart. So everybody knew that if you needed an extra hour or an extra whatever to make sure that quality remained high, then you took that time, because having to redo something costs you twice as much, because now you're redoing something that you already did, which means you're not spending that time to do something else, something new. And so mistakes were basically not allowed. And that also made a huge difference. So we created a sense of urgency, and we led from the front. We were there. We didn't go home as leaders. We basically were there all along. If people were working late at night, I stayed at the office. I made sure that I was the last guy to leave the office, because I wanted to make sure that people got the message that I was in it with them. And this wasn't just something I demanded of them.
And Roger, what was that big moment? Because I really love what you're sharing. And before going into another break, I need to make sure I get this answer from you. Is when the CEO said to you, "That's real leadership." What did it feel like that moment?
Yeah, we were at this was much later. We were at a big thing, directors and up in Texas, in some resort for an offsite. And I just happened to run into him, and he said, "What you did that's real leadership. You did an amazing job." I felt I actually wasn't sure what to say. I was I was blushing a little bit. I felt really proud. I felt proud of the fact that some of the things I did is what made the difference. So we talk a lot in Agile. We talk a lot about self-organizing teams, and what people don't realize is that many teams, groups of people, aren't ready necessarily to make decisions. Making decisions appears to be one of the hardest things for a lot of people. You ask them, "What do you want to do?" And they say, "I don't know. What do you think?" People are, scared. And being decisive and eliminating uncertainty and creating a very, simple, clear vision for the direction and the volume of the work was instrumental in creating an environment in which people knew exactly what it is they needed to do. And so that's what I typically bring to the table: decisiveness, empathy when appropriate, and the ability to also talk to people and have the tough conversations, because not every conversation is a fun conversation. There's a quote, you just mentioned something that jogged my memory. Steve Jobs was often asked why Pixar, why Apple were so successful. And he would always famously say, "It's because of the hundreds of things we chose not to do." And I think that kind of thinking is what I also typically bring to an organization. Let's keep things simple. Let's focus on 2 or 3 things that are achievable. And then once we get that done, we'll figure out what's next, as opposed to let's try to boil the ocean. So simplicity, the stuff that you basically don't do, that makes a huge difference as well.
Absolutely. And it's saying that we got to run into a quick break, Roger. But when we come back, we'll discuss with you what entrepreneurs can do right now to invest in leadership development, and how people or entrepreneurs or leaders or organizations can work with Rodger Koopman. So when we come back, we'll discuss how you can connect with Roger. Okay.
As a coach or a consultant, your focus should be on transforming lives, not struggling to get clients. That's where my company Amplify Media comes in to help you not just scale your business, but to consistently give you the revenue that your business deserves. We actually build a done-for-you lead generation acquisition system that brings in clients consistently so that you don't have to worry about where the next client is coming in. You focus on the most important thing that is scaling your business and impacting your own coaching clients. From high impact marketing and scroll stopping content to expert funnel creation, we take your business from point A to point B with precision. Coaches and consultants worldwide trust the company. We have over 277 plus clients, case studies all around the world, help tons and tons of businesses scale. So your next level is waiting. Let's make your brand unforgettable and visit the website today. I would love to offer you a free strategy session to share with you how we can help scale your business. Thank you.
So hello everyone, welcome back to the Empower Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host Rohit Soni, and here's my guest Rodger Koopman. So Roger, before the break, we were discussing about leadership. We also discussed about how the CEO told you that's real leadership because of your very good work and managing your team in a very productive way. So now we want to learn about how people, leaders, enterprises, organizations can work with Rodger Koopman. If you can tell us a little bit more and how they can connect with you.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm available, easily findable on the internet. Agilitatum.com is the website, my company's website. You can Google me. I typically show up fairly quickly. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. What we need to be able to do to work together is to have an honest engagement and to have tough conversations that are not always about how great you are, but what are the things where someone like me, who's been around the block a few times and who has successfully led product development teams, what do I see when I work with you? And what are the opportunities for growth? People that can look at themselves in the mirror and be honest with themselves are the kind of people that I typically work with. There was a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, and he talks about the fact there are many good companies, but only a few great companies. And what sets great companies apart is the leadership team, people that are honest with themselves, that recognize when they make mistakes, their organization suffers for that. So the people I work with most successfully are people that are in it to make real change, to change themselves, and in so doing, to basically help transform their company. And when I say transform, what that means is to create an organization that is a high-performing organization where everybody, fires on all cylinders, where productivity is through the roof, where quality is high, where customers are loyal and switching costs are high because people love the product, the quality, and they love the spirit of the company. That's the kind of company that I want to create with you, and I can, and I have. And so the most important ingredient for that to happen is honest dialogue and an ability to introspect, to look at yourself and to work together on the kinds of changes that we need to make ourselves as well as to the organization to have that organization thrive. At the end of the day, when you bring that kind of integrity to the process and that kind of courage, right? Because there is a vulnerability baked into this that is not always easy for people, then you set yourself up to be wildly successful. So I can, make observations, I can give pointers, I can do all sorts of stuff. I can analyze, troubleshoot, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's up to you, to decide whether or not you're in the game or not. And so that's what determines success. Real commitment. Because, it's not always fun, but it's hugely rewarding. So, and that's the good news.
And according to you, Roger, what's the number one misconception about leadership you wish entrepreneurs would unlearn today itself?
Leadership requires being present, not just showing up at a town hall and saying pithy words, but walking around, talking to people randomly sometimes. I worked at my second startup. Our CTO would shake everybody's hand every morning when he came in. Now, granted, we weren't a company of thousands, but it showed his commitment to the people. He was sincerely and genuinely interested in making sure that people had everything they needed to be successful, and he was very accessible. And that came back in spades, at times where you really need people to step up. You need their loyalty, their commitment. When you've made those investments, that's when that shows up. And so being present, being genuinely committed to your people is what is required for leadership to succeed.
Great. And one last thing before we run into another break. What warning signs should CEOs look for to know they're managing, not leading? Is there any things that you see, okay, they're just managing, actually not leading, and they're just doing it for the sake of doing it?
When you start worrying about process, are people following process? Do we have a process? And don't get me wrong, process is important. But when you're not asking the question, what is the most important thing we ought to be doing today, and you're solely focused on that and creating an environment that's optimized to make that happen, when you lose sight of that, then you are in danger of becoming a manager.
And was there any experience that you can mention where you saw something like it and told an employee that, you know what, that's not right? Was there any confrontation you did that sticks with your mind?
Well, I've in one particular instance, there was a guy, he was a manager, he reported to me, and I demoted him. I made him an individual contributor because he was not a leader. And I told him, I said, you're great as an individual contributor. We're not firing you. We don't want to get rid of you, but you cannot be in a leadership position. I cannot give you the management title because I need people with leadership abilities. And so we had a tough conversation. That was not something that was easy for him to hear. To his credit, he listened and he stayed. Although I had to spend a lot of time with him, for some one-on-one therapy sessions for a period of several months. But that's the other thing. When you recognize people are not able to lead, and with help they still can't, then you need to take them out of those positions, and you need to have those uncomfortable conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Roger, we've got to run into another break right now, but when we come back in our last segment, we'll discuss some of the most important things leaders do. So I'll see you right after this quick break.
As a coach or a consultant, your focus should be on transforming lives, not struggling to get clients. That's where my company Amplify Media comes in to help you not just scale your business, but to consistently give you the revenue that your business deserves. We actually build a done-for-you lead generation acquisition system that brings in clients consistently so that you don't have to worry about where the next client is coming in. You focus on the most important thing that is scaling your business and impacting your own coaching clients. From high-impact marketing and scroll-stopping content to expert funnel creation, we take your business from point A to point B with precision. Coaches and consultants worldwide trust the company. We have over 277 plus clients, case studies all around the world, help tons and tons of businesses scale. So your next level is waiting. Let's make your brand unforgettable and visit the website today. I would love to offer you a free strategy session to share with you how we can help scale your business. Thank you.
So hello everyone, welcome back to the Empower Entrepreneur TV show. This is your host Rohit Soni, and this is our last segment of the episode today. So Roger, now this is all about just sharing raw and real stuff, right? And I want to make sure people get the most out of it. So tell us a little bit about how can leaders keep their teams motivated in high pressure situation? Like, what you did with Pixar movie trips and culture investments, what would they do?
Well, it's an intuitive process. You have to have some ability, right? Some ability to intuit what's going on in people's minds, and sometimes that requires you to just ask people, how's it going? Anything I can help you with? Are you frustrated? If you see people that walk around with a frown on their face, engage on that and say, hey, let's talk for a second. Looks like you're stressed. Anything going on that I can help ameliorate? It's interesting. Leadership, it's kind of a nebulous thing. There was a very famous quote by a United States Supreme Court justice in the 1960s, Justice Potter Stewart, I think his name was. He was asked to define pornography, and he said he couldn't, but he knew it when he saw it. And leadership is like that. Good leadership, we talk about empathy and the ability to motivate and so on, but when you see it, you know it. Great leaders are people that are plugged into the pulse of the organization. And that the only way you can do that is by remaining engaged. It's easy to get mired in meeting after meeting, and of course, if you're in the C-suite, there's a lot of stuff that's pulling on you. But if you don't set aside multiple hours every day to be present in your organization, to walk around, to meet with people, to just say hi to people in the hallway, to ask them what's going on, what their concerns are, not what your concerns are, what their concerns are. What that shows people is that you care. And people like the feeling of being cared for. So good leaders are able to establish that the organization genuinely cares, not just pays lip service to it, not just, says the pithy words during the town halls, but they're actually there when it counts. The NFL, surprisingly, is actually a great template for what this looks like. You see a play being called, you see a quarterback getting the ball and looking to execute a certain play. He has to adapt in real time because, of course, the defense doesn't do what you want it to do. And he's looking for people that are out there available to receive a pass or a handoff or something. And you see players, based on them trusting their quarterback, moving around to try and be open. This is quintessentially what goes on in organizations. A good quarterback is a leader. And the people that are out there fighting for him trust him, either to get the ball to them or whatever, but to basically make sure that they continue to move that ball forward successfully. And that is what great leadership is all about in companies as well, to continue to move the ball forward, proverbially, right? To be trustworthy, to not go back on your word, and to basically make sure that your people are taken care of. That doesn't mean coddling people. That doesn't mean being the most popular guy. That just basically means being consistent, being trustworthy, and being true to your word. Honesty, integrity, these things sound trite, but they're incredibly important, because once you break trust, once you lose trust, it's almost impossible to regain it. So be a man of your word or a woman of your word. Don't lie to your people. Be honest with them. You can't always share everything, obviously, but share what you can. And also set a high bar. Expect people to step up and meet you where you need them to be. Because people will step up. They perform to the level of your expectations. And when your expectations are high, people.
What if Roger, you have told them and that still doesn't happen? What would you do then?
Well, if I'm dealing with people that are not able to, then I will engage them and say, what is it? Because right now you're not performing at a level that I need you to. So let's talk about this, because I want to help you get to that place so you can be a full participant in the success of the company. And so I will go out of my way to try and help people. Is it training? Is it some counseling, some mentoring, whatever? We can get that for you. Now, after a period of time, if you don't adjust, if you don't seem to really catch on, then I'm going to have to fire you. A friend of mine was an instructor pilot in the Air Force, and he said, Rodger, given all the time in the world, I can teach anybody how to fly an airplane. The problem is in the Air Force, you have to learn how to fly a fighter jet, in 6 months. And so it's time compressed. And that's the same in a company. We don't have, just unlimited time. So people are within a certain window where they have the ability or the opportunity to show that they can improve themselves. And if they can't within that window, then unfortunately it's time to part ways. And you have to make those calls. You don't have to be ruthless about it, but because it's not fun, but you have to make those tough calls.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That's key, right? In any business, you can't just let the inmates run the asylum. Make sure that the right people are at the right place and they're doing the right stuff. Yeah. That's the key. Yeah, Rodger. So in the last segment of our show, as we discussed, we'll have a quick rapid fire round with you. So we'll just give you options, just answer as soon as possible. Okay, we'll be fun and quick, right? So what's your biggest leadership myth?
Leadership myth?
Yeah.
That leaders know everything.
A book on leadership you always recommend?
I would recommend the book by General McChrystal, about, what is it? I forgot the title, but it's General McChrystal who wrote the book.
Okay. Then one decision that changed your career?
One decision that changed my career was an unwillingness to do something unethical. I said, I'm not doing that. And I was willing to fall on my sword for that. I was scared shitless at the time, but it turned out that being able to muster that courage is something I didn't know I had in me. And that changed a lot of things for me. It also opened some people's eyes.
And who's the best leader you ever learned from?
The best leader I've ever learned from is my former boss, who later became the CEO of the company that acquired us, Philip Measy, a fantastic individual. We would go on walks. He was a true mentor. He always told me that he was incredibly good at the game, and he was very successful, obviously, but he shared freely of himself, the things he was doing, the meetings he was at, the people he was meeting, and that opened my eyes. And that's still my most favorite person I ever worked for, and the person I still deeply care for, because he was just a genuinely good human being at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, it was a generally good podcast, that's for sure, and a show today, TV show done by you. And I really appreciate you for joining me, Rodger, today. We shared a lot of stuff that needs to be heard by entrepreneurs, leaders around the world, the gaps that happens on every day. And it's an honor to have you. I'll just drop all your details here, your website, your LinkedIn, so people can connect with you. A link for them to book a call with you. So whoever was looking for Rodger services, we'll put everything there in the banner and every places. Rodger, thanks a lot for being on the show. It was an honor to have you, my friend. And I believe we learned a lot today. Any last things you want to say?
No, Rohit, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Rodger. Have a great day, everyone. And I hope everyone learned a lot from today's episode of the Empower Entrepreneur TV show season 2. I'll see you next week, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And most probably we'll keep bringing amazing guests like Rodger on the show. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Success isn't for the chosen few. It's for those who choose to show up, take action, and never back down. This is the Empower Entrepreneur, hosted by Rohit Soni, airing across 185 countries, 26 plus TV networks,
and 100 plus podcast stations. You've heard the strategies, you've seen the mindset. Now it's time to execute. I'll see you next week, every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern. Go, build, dominate. Until next time, stay empowered.